In this video, I will talk about compound nouns, how to recognize them, and what they sound like, or their pronunciation. So first of all, let's define a compound noun. Compound means more than one. So a compound noun is two nouns that are together to name one thing. So a good example of this is mailbox. Mail is a noun, is something on its own. Box is also something that we recognize on its own. And a box where we place our mail is a mailbox, right? So these two words, these two nouns coming together as their own meaning, that is a compound noun. Okay, so in this case with mailbox, the words are together to create one word. Other times, the words will be found as two separate words, right? So for example, identity theft, right? Or credit card. Those are going to be two separate words. So unfortunately, I don't have a magic rule to let you know when something will be shared as or written as one or two words. But this is a question of vocabulary, right? So as you learn these words, you learn if they are one or two words in their spelling, okay? So, compound nouns have a specific pronunciation pattern, right? This is a specific stress pattern that we're going to be focused on. So first, let's define stress, okay? Not all languages use stress. So depending on your language background, this may be easier or more difficult to recognize, okay? But basically, the definition or the three main components of a stressed syllable is that that syllable is going to be longer, louder, and higher in pitch. Okay, and we'll have a look at this in just a minute. But basically, any word we have is going to be made up of syllables, right? And stress at the word level means that there is one syllable within that word that is longer, louder, and higher in pitch than the other syllables in the word, right? This is different from stressing a word within a sentence, right? Both of these things happen, and in this case, we're looking specifically at word stress. So this next slide, we're looking at this is the visual representation of the frequency of our voice. This is a tool that is used so that we have some kind of a visual representation of a word. And here you'll see the word post office, which is from your activity or your exercise on page 43 in your book. And post office is a word that has three syllables, okay? So we're going to talk about which of these syllables is stressed, okay? So if you have a look down here, like I said, you have three syllables, and we can pretty clearly see that, right? We have 1, 2, and 3. So this is post office, right? Something like that. So if we're talking about pitch, this blue line here shows us the pitch of the voice. So when we're talking about pitch, we're talking about tone as in what we do in music, right? So it's pretty clear that the first syllable here is higher in pitch, right? So this is going to tell us that the first syllable of a compound noun is stressed. So you can easily see that here. Let's listen to the example and see if you can recognize that as well.
Post office.
Post office, right? One more time.
Post office.
Post office. So sometimes it can help to be able to see this and then you're able to hear it more easily, right? So this is the stress pattern for a compound noun. Now, in this case, the word post, our first word in this compound, only has one syllable, okay? If it's a word like identity, which has 4 syllables, then we know that if the word is identity theft, the first word is going to be stressed. We don't stress every syllable of that first word. We only stress the one syllable. So in the word identity, where do you hear that longer, louder, higher syllable? Identity. The second syllable, right? So it would be identity theft, right? So this is the stress pattern that you are practicing for compound nouns. So you'll do a little bit of practice with this, and then you'll go on to try to recognize compound nouns, but they are going to be mixed in with some adjective noun combinations. Okay, so these are your words from page 44. You'll be listening to them and trying to identify which of these words are pronounced as compound nouns, right? The ones that don't have that same stress pattern that we discussed of stress on the first word, then those are going to be your adjective noun combinations. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about the difference between these two things. Compounds tend to operate like one word, right? Mailbox, that's just one thing, right? It can usually be found, compounds can usually be found in the dictionary as an entry, right? On their own. And again, they have that stress pattern of the first word being stressed. Louder, longer, higher in pitch, right? However, we have some adjective noun phrases or adjective noun combinations, right? In this case, the adjectives can usually be replaced with a different adjective, right? And in this situation, both nouns are usually stressed. So here's a good example for you. You have White House versus a white house. So White House, in this case, this is a compound noun, right? It functions as one thing that has its very own definition, right? The White House, both nouns are stressed, right? White House, both nouns are stressed. In this case, the White House is where the President of the United States lives, right? Whereas if you have one of these adjective noun combinations, a White House, right? As we said, the adjective can usually be replaced with a different adjective. So we could say a blue house, we could say a red house, right? So a White House is going to be a house that is painted white. Okay, so you will listen to these 12 words in Canvas and you will try to identify which of these are being pronounced as a compound and which are not. Okay, once you identify those, then I want you to practice and also submit a recording with you using this stress pattern that we've talked about for compound nouns. Okay?